United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I really would like to thank everybody for coming this evening. Why don't we start with the roll call?
Trustee Spurling.
Here.
Trustee Lee.
Yes.
Trustee Heinz. Trustee Youngerman.
Here.
Trustee Marisak.
Here.
Trustee Bond.
All right, we do have a quorum this evening. Moving on to public participation. The first item that we have today is recognition of Herschel Luckenbill. So if you want to come up, I will do the honors here. You over here. So if you've been to our meetings before, it's pretty customary every so often for us to acknowledge the hard work that Herschel's done. And this one is quite unique. As you guys may or may not know, the state of Illinois is celebrating their 200th birthday. And as part of that, they've honored 200 veterans from Illinois. And Herschel was fortunate enough to be a part of that and kind of exemplifies the work that he's done on behalf of veterans locally and in our state and nationally. So with that, it is my honor to present this to you in recognition of receiving the Honor 200 Award from the state of Illinois, and thank you for helping out our veterans.
Thank you, thank you.
I'm going to fold this out. I'm going to unfold this so you can see it. Yeah, this is not the best spot for a photo, is it? Yeah, and then we also wanted to present him with the bicentennial flag of the state of Illinois.
Nice.
They didn't give me one of these.
Nice. The state's lacking in some funds, so that's probably why. So with that, everybody down?
This is really an honor. It was an honor to be selected as the Honor 200 Hero, one of them. And we got to go down to Navy Pier and be with the incoming governor and the outgoing governor and some other specialties that I can't even remember who all they were, but it was just wonderful. And we had a nice event that evening and was honored. Out of the state, 750,000 veterans, they selected 200 from the state to get this award, and I was one of the 200, and it just made my head bigger. But I am Herschel Luckenbill. I have been instrumental in bringing the Vietnam Wall to Oswego in 2017, to Aurora in 2013, and this year I have a surprise for everybody, and that is we are bringing a Mideast conflict wall. The Wall of Honor, which honors all of our Afghanistan, Iraq, and Desert Storm veterans that have lost their life, paid the ultimate sacrifice. It'll be here in the area, May 22nd to June the 4th. And it's got every picture of everyone, every soldier that's given his life. And it's got their name and their picture on this wall. The wall has 32 panels with 104 names on each side of each panel. And it's coming from Albany, Oregon. A young girl in high school drew this wall for her term paper. And they liked it so well that they made a professional wall out of it. So we're bringing that wall to Oswego, Montgomery area, May 22nd to June the 4th. And it's just another thrill that I have the opportunity to be the one bringing it here. So it's fun. That's what I love to do, and that keeps me going. Thank you, Matt.
Thank you.
Thank you, Village Montgomery. Okay, tonight I have the honor of inviting a lovely lady up. Mrs. Rita Pennington, would you please come forward? We're in the service. We do our best to keep peace and freedom here in the United States for all of our citizens. And when these soldiers go off and spend time away from their families, especially over the holidays and other times. When they come back home, sometimes they don't have a family to come back to. Sometimes they don't have medical or anything like that, good medical to take care of them. But we like to honor them with what we call the Quilts of Valor. And Rita, I'd like for you to tell everybody a little bit about the Quilts of Valor, and I'll bring the 3 recipients up.
Quilts of Valor Foundation has been in existence since 2003. I've been with Quilts of Valor since 2004. I am a state coordinator. I take care of the state of Illinois requests that come in through for our veterans. These are thank you quilts made for our veterans, thanking them for their service. As a matter of fact, we meet right across the street the 3rd Tuesday of every month at the VFW making these quilts. And like you say, it is an honor, it is a privilege. So I'd like to award the 3 quilts that they're employees of the one civilian and the city employees that are veterans. And I say they're doing double duty. They served our country, now they're here to serve our community. So.
We have Mr. Sean Davidson, please come forward. Sean Davidson. Yeah, I think he's Marine. Okay, our second stay up here. Our second is our own police chief, Mr. Philip Smith. Can you reach that? Double duty, huh? Double duty. Okay, and our third quilt tonight goes to Charles Cornelius. He said, I didn't tell him this when I brought him tonight. Okay. We have time. Can we let them have 30 seconds to tell us how they helped win the war?
In 30 seconds? My name is Chuck, so everybody calls me Chuck. I was fortunate right out of high school in '68 to join the Navy. Pay wasn't very well back then, but I became a diver, so it gave me an extra few dollars a month to spend on poker games or whatever out to sea. But no, I see my fair share, some that I don't really can discuss or don't care to, but I thought I helped win the war, if that's what they call it.
Those who know me, I'm a man of few words. Appreciate y'all coming out. Thank you very much for this quilt. I didn't do much, little time in Iraq, and that's it. So I'm an old dog, spent 32 years in, loved every minute of it. I'd do it again in a heartbeat.
All right, I'm also not very good at public speaking, not saying you're not, Chief, but I'm a man of few words as well. I joined right out of high school, Marine Corps, 18. I spent a lot of time with the Navy, actually. I was in amphibious assault. Spent a lot of time in Asia and the Pacific, training our foreign allies, Philippines and Korea. Got married to my wife. We were 18. I left when my first son he was 28 days old. Now he's 4. He's up there. So, did 4 years, got out. Loved every minute of it. Met a lot of great guys and girls. It was an honor serving my country. Do it again in a heartbeat. So.
Again, thank you, Herschel. Thank you, all of you. Sincerely, from the bottom of my heart, do appreciate. I'm wearing a different microphone now. The service that you gave to this country, absolutely appreciate that. So, all right, we'll move on now to the presentation of the Festival of Tree Awards. So, just seems like more fun. So those of you that have been here before know that every year we encourage residents and businesses to decorate a tree in our lobby that's up for the holiday season. And it seems to be progressing and getting better and better every year, and certainly do appreciate the level of effort and the creativity that goes into some of these decorations. If you've seen them, you know what I mean. So with that, I don't want to start with first place. That's much fun. This one doesn't have a place, so a special place. Oh, there we go. So third place this year. So residents, I guess anybody that visits Village Hall can vote on these trees. And so the third place winner this year goes to St. Luke's Christian Academy. Is St. Luke's here this evening? Awesome. That's all right. Certainly appreciate their help. And still first place. And second place, a very creative tree, goes to Fox Metro, who we all know and love. So I know they're here this evening. You guys want to? Thank you. Appreciate it. I can give this to you, but I'm going to hold it hostage until we take a photo.
Oh, okay.
Come on up here. This looks better than in the corner. Really do appreciate your help in making our village beautiful. So why don't you guys hold that and take a picture. All right. All right. Thank you. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
And the first place award this year goes to the Orchard Road Animal Hospital. Congratulations. Oh, she did. How are you? Thank you. Appreciate it. Thank you. How are you? Let's get a picture of it. This is going to put this. All right. There we go. All right. Sometimes I wonder if they're done or if they're just messing with us. So, all right. Thank you so much.
Thank you
I
very
appreciate
much.
it. Thank you. Thanks for coming out. Also, with that goes a gift certificate as the prize. So, thank you. All right, I'm going to move on to item D this evening, which is the swearing in of Police Officer Kevin Bayer. And with that, I ask our Chief of Police to the podium for an introduction.
Thank you, Mr. President. Village Board, ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to introduce you to our newest Montgomery Police Department, Officer Kevin Bayer. Kevin is originally from Mokina, Illinois, currently resides in Oswego. Kevin he was a high school football star, earned an athletic scholarship to the University of North Dakota. Played football there. After a while, transferred and graduated from Ball State University with a bachelor's degree in criminal justice criminology. Kevin tells me his passion for law enforcement started with his grandfather. His grandfather was a sergeant with the Chicago Police Department. Kevin came to us and worked with as a dispatcher from Calumet City Police Department. He did that for roughly 2 years. Tonight, he's joined by his parents, Kim and Al Bayer of Mokina, his fiancee, Haley Barrett, his 10-month-old daughter, Ella, his future in-laws, Mark and Kim Barrett. Kevin excelled when he was at our police academy, graduated. He was a vice president of his class, and he enjoys hunting. Ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to introduce Kevin Baer.
All right, want to raise your right hand, repeat after me. I, Kevin Baer,
I, Kevin Baer,
do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will support the Constitution of the United States
that I will support the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of Illinois,
and the Constitution of the State of Illinois,
and that I will faithfully discharge
and that I will faithfully discharge
the duties of police officer
the duties of police officer
to the best of my ability.
to the best of my ability.
Congratulations.
Thanks.
And Kevin's badge will be sworn on by his fiancee, Haley. I'm sorry, pinned on.
All right, good work. We're going to get a picture. Yeah. All right. Do you want to get in on this picture? Thanks for coming down. Come on in. Get in there. Congrats. Thank you. Thanks. Good work. What you're wearing, is that Kevlar? Yeah. There you go. So I do want to thank everybody for coming and do want to welcome our newest officer. And one thing that I always point out and is one thing that you should note is that your brothers and sisters from the police department do come to the swearing in. I certainly do appreciate that every time that you are here to support one of your own join our force. So again, I look forward to your career here and working in Montgomery. Thank you. So with that, if you came for those items and you don't, we wouldn't prefer to stick around for the rest of the meeting. You certainly don't have to. We'll take like a 10-second break here if anybody wants to take off. You're certainly more than welcome to stay, but would want to make that announcement. The other thing that I would note is if you are planning on speaking tonight on any item that's on our agenda or that's not on our agenda, I would ask, we're going to ask everybody to do that at this time, actually item G, so we have two folks up first. But if you can sign in, you can do that now. You can take it and start passing it around, that's fine. You don't have to speak in that order. Unless you're the petitioner or with the petitioner, I'd like to ask you to speak at this time just so we can keep the meeting going. So with that, we'd like to move on to item E, which is Deborah Ellis at 983 Audubon in Aurora, and this is regarding Ricky Rockets. Thank you.
Thank you, President Brawley and trustees. I am a part of a group of Linden's homeowners with serious concerns regarding the Ricky Rockets project on the southwest corner of Orchard and Jericho Roads. We are concerned that this project will have a negative impact on our safety, quality of life, and the resale value of our homes. I will first speak of the process. The approval process was rushed and not in accordance with established protocol. Only 10 of the 320 Linden's homeowners were notified. Letters were only sent to those 10 homeowners whose properties abut Jericho Road. The letter was vague. There was no mention of a hotel, multiple liquor licenses, or video gaming on the property, just future development. The homeowners on the north side of Audubon Lane were not contacted. Those homes are within the required 250 feet property line to property line distance, excluding roadways. We believe that all Linden's homeowners should have been notified of this project, as this project affects every Linden's homeowner, safety, quality of life, and value of our homes. There were no signs on the property announcing the December 6th zoning board meeting, the December 20th planning board meeting, or this meeting tonight. We discovered just today that the developer is requesting no additional public hearings on this matter. The Linden's property manager, hired by our homeowners association, was not contacted. Her parent company was sent a certified letter that was returned unsigned. Verification that she was not contacted. No further attempt was made to reach her. After the December 20th Planning Board meeting, we were told that the proposed project was not a truck stop. As video gaming is proposed on the property, the project must meet Illinois requirements for a video gaming operator license. As the property is not a racing or betting facility, a fraternal organization, a veterans organization, or a bar restaurant that pours and serves alcohol, the only remaining allowable category is a licensed truck stop establishment. Illinois specifies that a licensed truck stop establishment must be located on at least a 3-acre parcel, have separate diesel fueling pumps, separate truck parking, and sell at least 10,000 gallons of diesel fuel a month. The Ricky Rockets proposal meets every one of these requirements. It simply can't be a truck stop and not be a truck stop at the same time. The zoning board voted to not allow overnight truck parking on the premises, but truck parking will be allowed 24/7. When asked by Linden's homeowners how the no overnight parking would be enforced, neither the developer, representatives from Ricky Rockets, or the Montgomery planners had an answer. In fact, we were told that enforcement would be the responsibility of the homeowners. Next, I'd like to talk about safety, quality of life, and home values. The Linden's main exit on Orchard Road is restricted to southbound only. Most residents, commercial vehicles, and school buses use the only remaining exit at Summerhill Drive and Jericho Road. The proposal calls for extending Summerhill Drive south of Jericho Road as an entrance exit for this project. We are gravely concerned with this intersection as it is frequently congested at commuting time and when sports activities let out at the Stewart Sports Complex, a quarter-mile west of Jericho Road. It is often impossible to turn eastbound onto Jericho Road. The presently bad traffic problem at that intersection will become substantially worse with an increased car and truck traffic patronizing the new project. A KDOT representative that we spoke with told us that a traffic signal will not be installed at this intersection. The new convenience store will be attractive to children who will have to negotiate this intersection by foot or bicycle. The applicant is already soliciting for a 3-story hotel to be built on the southwest corner of Summerhill and Jericho, a proposal which will make a bad situation worse. Any potential home buyer in the Lindens will be aware of the 24/7 gas station, car wash, convenience store, and truck stop directly across the street, and the increase in traffic accidents, vehicle noise and light, car wash and vacuum noise, and diesel fumes associated with this project. Any potential buyer will weigh the financial risk of purchasing a home with diminished value and will either buy elsewhere or demand a lower price. A reduction in comparable home values of one home in the Lindens will diminish value, and all homes will affect all homes in the Lindens. A distinguished value for one home will reflect on all the homes in our subdivision. Next, I'd like to speak about the gas and wash project. On April 23rd, 2018, this board voted 4-2 to not approve a special use permit for a gas and wash, gas station, convenience store, car wash, and truck stop proposed for the southeast corner of Route 30 and Gordon Road. A trustee at that meeting stated, significant board concerns were shared in regard to the high impact of the use and possible adverse effects on traffic congestion and decreased property values. Another trustee said, I don't want to see gambling of any sort in a residential area. The developer has requested a guarantee not to impose any video gaming restrictions on this development. A third trustee at that same meeting said, if it was behind my house, I wouldn't like it. We agree with the reasoning by the village trustees and ask that as citizens of the city of Aurora, we be given the same consideration as do residents of Montgomery. We are facing the construction and operation of a 24/7 truck stop and unrestricted video gaming located in closer proximity to more of our homes than the gas and wash project. We ask that the same reasoning and consideration be applied to the Ricky Rockets project. Once this project is in place, the results will be irreversible. In conclusion, the proposed Ricky Rockets project offers no amenities that aren't already abundant on Orchard Road. There are already numerous gas and diesel outlets, car washes, convenience stores, video gambling establishments, and outdoor cafes nearby. We aren't against the construction of a Ricky Rockets or any other similar facility, but we are opposed to building it directly across from an apartment complex, a church, and a 320-home single-family neighborhood, and next to a park and lake, which abuts the property to the west. There simply must be a better location for this project. We respectfully request that you vote no on the special use permit for Ricky Rockets at Orchard and Jericho Roads. We thank you for your time and your consideration.
Thank you. Wow, look at that. Okay, so moving on, the next item, and I do appreciate your comments. The next person on the agenda to speak is Kevin Ellis at the same address. Due to the fact that I anticipate we have a large number of people likely speaking, since you guys were signed up to be on the agenda, you're entitled to 5 minutes to speak, and I certainly want to hear everything that you have to say. And outside of that, on the public comment is a 2-minute opportunity. So if there's anybody here that's already made the same comment that you're going to be making, if you can limit your comments in length, I think that would help get us to this item so we can debate this later on in the meeting. But with that, I'll ask Jeff for his comments, or Kevin for his comments. Go ahead.
Yes. Thank you, Mr. President, board trustees. I was actually the backup in case we weren't able to get all that in the allotted time. We appreciate the leniency on the time. Thank you very much for that. If I may, I'd like to ask those folks, residents of the Lindens that are concerned, to please stand up and make yourselves known. Great. Thank you very much. That's all I have, sir.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Appreciate it.
Thank you.
All right, with that. Okay, with that, I do want to move on to the public comment. This is a 2-minute opportunity. I would throw it to Alderman Franco if you wish to speak first, just out of a courtesy from the city of Aurora. I do want to welcome you to the podium.
Thank you, Mr. President. Thank you, Board of Trustees. This is my second time here. I hope I don't have to come much longer. But I am Carl Franco, Alderman for the 5th Ward in Aurora. I represent the Linden subdivision. And I just want to highlight a couple of things that Mrs. Ellis said. I won't be long. You know, as I listen to this, and I'm in a similar situation you are, there's a couple of things that kind of struck me. The sentiments of why a complex similar to this was disapproved, the southeast corner of Route 30 in Gordon. You know, I would ask that, and those are wonderful comments, those are things that we take consideration in Aurora too about the residential areas. I would ask that we be consistent with that as we look at this subdivision versus that area too. I think that's a very important item for us. And then when I look at the notification letter that went out, as I read it, they talked about rezoning a final plat to allow development, including convenience store, automobile refueling, commercial vehicle fueling, car wash, retail, and future development. Apparently, since then, a couple of things have come to light. You know, we talked about the truck stop. I don't see a truck stop mentioned in there, but based on Illinois law, how do you have a truck stop without having gaming? Those two don't mesh. I mean, you have to have one or the other to have those. The hotel wasn't mentioned in there. So I think based on details coming out, and not in this letter, that we may want to revisit having this meeting again, because now we have more specifics. And if we're going to have an opportunity for open debate and public comment, I think maybe we need to redo that again, just because we know more now. And I think that'd be fair to everybody else to since we have all these details coming in. I found out there's 6 licenses for gaming that they were looking to have too in the future. So not that we put the kibosh on that all, but I think we need to talk about that because we just know more now. So I feel that maybe we give the opportunity to the Lindens to actually come and talk to them. I know that a lot of them didn't come, maybe nobody came to the December 6th meeting, but now I think they're fully aware and they're ready to come and discuss it and talk to you guys. And I do appreciate the time that you had given us. I know we met with staff a couple weeks ago, and it was a nice conversation. I think both sides are talking about what they want to do and what their concerns were. And so if we can do that one more time with this new knowledge, I would appreciate that on their behalf. So thank you for your time tonight.
Thank you, Alderman. Okay. If there's anybody that wishes to speak, come to the podium. And again, please be cognizant of the time and try and keep your comments to 2 minutes or less. Also, make sure that you have signed in. You don't have to before you speak, but before you leave, just so we have your information.
Hi, everybody. My name is Diane G. Marino, and I also am a resident of the Lindens. And Ellis has pretty much covered just about everything, I think. The first I read about this was a small newspaper article. Like I said, there was nothing on the property, and I've been going around to the different homeowners for the past couple of weeks. No one at all was aware that Summer Hill is going to be extended all the way to Rochester and out to Orchard. They weren't aware of the hotel. It says that notices were sent out, but I spoke to 3 homeowners that live in, on the street that got notices. They didn't understand the letter, it was so vague. And then another person on Summerhill that should have been notified, and he received nothing in the mail. So how can you say everyone was notified that needed to be notified when nobody knew? So really, that's all I have, but I would just like an opportunity, say the sign should have gone up. There's plenty of land right down the street. I'm not against having a gas station. I always thought one would go there, but one with semi-truck parking to 6 spaces, which headlights go right into the Lindens, that's unacceptable. As a realtor for many, many years, and tried selling a home that was right across the street from a car wash. Could not do it. Could not sell their house. Nobody wants to live right across the street from the blowers and the vacuums. Okay, I think I'm done.
All right, if there's anybody else for this item, because obviously there's a lot of folks here for that. If you want to speak on this before, I know we have folks that are here to speak on other items. Let's try and do these all at once, just that's helpful.
Yeah.
Welcome.
Welcome. As I'm signing in, Mr. President, distinguished members of the board, thank you very much for taking the time to hear us this evening. My name is Jennifer Herring. I'm a recent resident of the Lindens. My husband and I have lived there for a little over a year now. I'll do my best to be brief. I've noticed in that time that we've lived there, there is a large population of children, both grade school age and those that are growing to be high school age. And with children, there are many activities, there's a lot going on. They eventually learn to drive. They go places, they want to go to the convenience store, as mentioned. My concern is for the additional traffic and the hazards that it's going to pose to them as they're learning to drive and having to negotiate this potentially even more hazardous corner if this project is allowed to go forward. Additionally, if the truck stop is put in, that might suggest that there are more people there in transition that may or may not be there for a period of time. And we have to ask ourselves what kind of interaction these people that are coming and going might be having with the children. So I just please ask you to take that into consideration as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Jennifer. Is there anybody else wishing to speak on this topic? Go ahead.
Good evening. Thank you. I didn't really plan on coming up here, but there's one, of course, I'm a resident of the Lindens since first phase. I've been there since 2001. And many things concern me about this establishment, wanting to be put in there, but I think everybody else has covered most everything. There is one thing that really does bother me, though. I don't know if you're aware that they just improved Jericho Lake tremendously. They made it a beautiful place to go and do Frisbee golf and walk your dog and go for a walk. There's people that get on the lake and boat, and I'm really concerned about the environmental impact it'll have and how it will not make that area look so pretty. How it'll affect everything there, the plants, the animals, the wildlife, whether people even want to go to that park anymore after they spent all that money beautifying it. That's really all I have. And my name's Liz Hoskinson. I'm a resident at the Lindens. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Liz. Is there anybody else on the Ricky Rockets? All right. Anybody else that wishes to address the podium? Chief?
Good evening, members of the village board. I'll try and keep this to 2 minutes on. But I'd like to address the board this evening in regards to the TIF rebate. As you know, the village board and the fire district worked well together for over a year to come up with a good resolution that the village board adopted unanimously on May 17th or May 22nd of 2017. And I was anxiously awaiting our joint review board meeting on December 11th, only to find out that when I got to that meeting, there was no staff TIF rebate presented at that meeting, which the resolution called for. So with that, I asked when we would see the TIF rebate. And I was told after the January 14th meeting and maybe after the January 28th meeting. So I sat and waited, and with a little bit of intervention, I received an email with the TIF rebate information on December 28th. One of the things, and I've reviewed that information, so I want to keep this short tonight. The numbers seem fine. They're in line with all the research that I've done. But I hope this is not a sign of the delays that could potentially happen again this time with our TIF rebate. I know that in May, we had talked very candidly to each other that we didn't want to go through this every year and have these issues come up, and we wanted it to be a smooth process. And I just felt that it wasn't a smooth process. Staff isn't following the resolution. However, I did get the report. The numbers look good. And I don't have any problems with the TIF rebate as the figures show. I hope this is not something that's going to take a long time for the village to process. I know it's on the agenda this evening under letter O. But as you know, this is how the whole program started several years ago that took us almost 16 months to get our rebate. A couple other issues from the Joint Review Board meeting that I'd like to address. One is, now that the TIF has got some significant funding in it, almost $600 and some thousand, I would like to know where the interest is going or where the interest is on that particular money. The other thing I noticed in the TIF is that in our annual report is we paid $53,000 out of the TIF fund for a project, a Montgomery Outflow Water Project study that was approved by the village board on May 1st of 2017. And the completion, the projected completion on that was going to be October 2017. And I was told at the TIF Joint Review Board meeting that that particular study has not been completed. So those are my comments on the TIF rebate. As always, I know it's under agenda number 0, letter O. I'd be happy to answer any questions at that time. But I just hope this isn't a delay in our TIF rebate based on not getting the proper information, which was a problem in the past. So I'd be happy to answer questions under that agenda item for further discussion.
All right, thank you.
Thank you for your consideration.
Appreciate it.
Thank you, Chief.
All right. Anyone else? Is it Aurora University? Did you want to address the board at this time? I think that would be,
I could wait till K, or I can do it now.
I think now probably makes the most sense. Bruce, thanks.
Good evening, Mr. President, members of the board.
I'm Bruce Goldsmith. As you know, I've represented Aurora University for a long time and other property owners in the village. We just got notice today of the text amendment proposed with respect to the gas conversion, tire-to-gas conversion plant. And the university has barely had an opportunity to figure out what it really means. But as you know, we have Spartan Athletic Park directly north of the tracks. As we look at the map, this site is directly south of us. And as best I can tell from a really quick review of all the literature I could find today, there are certain concerns. One, there's two overriding concerns. One is it appears your text amendments don't require public notice in the sense of notice to adjacent property owners. And a text amendment, unlike a special use permit, allows the whole M2 district to allow gas and petroleum manufacturing. That would be a dramatic change to a location that Aurora University chose because really the uses are what I would characterize as light manufacturing uses to the south. And it would be a significant change if you open up your text to include these heavier uses, because once you do that, then if someone comes in with one of those uses, it's a matter of right once you change your text. So that's the biggest issue. The second thing is just there's a lack of data on this type of facility. And so what I read is storage of tires can lead to a lot of dirt, so you have air quality issues. The actual plant itself has all kinds of air quality potential issues. It's not clear what those are at this time because of the lack of data. More particularly, it apparently generates a smell, and if it's anything like what the facility was in Hillside when they were processing, I know it was methane, it's a different gas, but if the gas has any of the qualities that methane had at Hillside, that smell lasted for 30 years. Smell would be a big problem running an athletic facility where we hope to not only have conference events, but may eventually have national events for Division III. So the university's invested over $20 million to date. The university intends to invest tens of millions of dollars more in this facility for a really spectacular sports facility. I think you know physically it's an incredibly attractive site. Eventually, they hope to have an academic building there as well, and this use seems to be inconsistent with the general trend of development and is particularly of concern to the university, both from its impact on the operation of the field and just the image that would give as well. So the university at this point is opposed to its the amendment to the text, and we'll try to monitor this process as it moves along. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Bruce. All right, is there anybody else that wishes to address the board? Going once? Twice? Okay. I do appreciate everybody coming to speak for and against your project of choice here this evening, and we will be debating all of these and hopefully getting some responses to the questions as we move forward in the meeting. So we'll move forward. The consent agenda, I'll read the items, entertain a motion for approval. We have the minutes of the village board meeting of December 10th, the building report for December of 2018, accounts payable through December 21st of last year, accounts payable through January 10th of this year, cancellation of our January 22nd committee of the whole meeting, and appointment of Ryan Morton to the Police Pension Board to fill a vacancy. And the final item is ordinance 1839, amending the village code, reducing the number of Class G liquor licenses, eliminating South Moon's Barbecue's license. That's a waiver of first, passage on the second. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Second?
Call the roll.
Trustee Youngerman.
Yes.
Trustee Marisak.
Yes.
Trustee Spurling.
Yes.
And Trustee Lee.
Yes.
That carries 4-0. Thank you. Under items for separate action, we have the recommendation of Plan Commission on PC 2018-024, special use request for utility scale solar energy system located 800 South River Road. And this is Fox Metro, and this is second reading of this item. With that, I'll ask Director Young for a summary, and we'll move forward. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. President. Tonight you have before you a second reading of the recommendation of the Plan Commission because it was listed as a first reading only at your last meeting. This item would have normally gone to consent agenda, but because of that information in the last agenda, that's the reason why it's on your regular agenda tonight. So the recommendation of the Plan Commission was to approve a utility-scale solar energy system on the southern portion of the property that Fox Metro has recently acquired. And we recommend that you accept the Plan Commission's recommendation and grant the special use that's listed as item 6B.
Director Young, at the last meeting, we told Fox Metro we'd have that paperwork ready. I just want to confirm the paperwork is ready for them
Yes,
to file tomorrow.
it is.
And
Thank you.
just to confirm, and I don't remember if it was a Plan Commission meeting or the last meeting, the property where they're putting these solar panels is the south portion of the property that Fox Metro has taken, but it's north of the area that's paved, correct?
Correct.
Okay. Thank you.
And just to clarify for the board, even though these are the same items, they're two separate votes. So A and B is the Plan Commission recommendation and then the approval.
Okay. Does the petitioner have anything else to add since last meeting? Has anybody else had any questions that were not answered? All right. With that, I'll entertain a motion on item A, which is the recommendation of Plan Commission.
I move to accept the Plan Commission's recommendation.
Second.
Trustee Spurling. Yes. Trustee Lee.
Yes.
Trustee Youngerman.
Yes.
And Trustee Marisak.
Yes. That carries 4-0. Unless anybody has anything else to add, entertain a motion on ordinance 1838, approving the special use at the site.
So moved.
Second. Any discussion?
Trustee Spurling. Yes. Trustee Lee.
Yes.
Trustee Youngerman.
Yes.
And Trustee Marisak.
Yes. All right, thank you. The next item on the agenda, item C, is a recommendation of Plan Commission for a text amendment regarding regarding density, and this was on behalf of the Victorian Apartments. With that, I'll ask Director Young for a summary.
Thank you. The petitioner in this case is Victorian Apartments. They've asked for a text amendment to allow 22.6 units per acre in a residentially zoned area for multifamily zoned R6. This would be across the village. There aren't many properties zoned R6 within the village, but Victorian Apartments is one of them. Their desire is to add units to their existing complex, and then actually they intend to acquire some adjacent property to develop as apartments as well. As you know, the staff is currently working with CMAP to update our zoning ordinance. Staff's recommendation was that until such time as the zoning ordinance update is completed, that we make no changes to the overall density requirements within the R6 zoning district. The commission concurred with that. They realized that the current regulations of 12 units to the acre might be a little low, but they felt that it was a significant increase to go to 22.6 units to the acre. So with that, the Plan Commission recommended that the text amendment not be approved, and we've given the property owners the option of potentially looking at a PUD amendment coming in on this property to look at whether or not they could physically increase the number of units on their tract of property, and/or they have some two-story buildings. They're reviewing whether or not there's the ability to engineer a third story onto those structures. So with that, we'd recommend that the text amendment not be approved.
Thank you.
And I believe the petitioner is here if you have any questions.
Yeah, does the petitioner would like to address the board?
If I remember my Plan Commission meeting, the PUD process is really the better of the process to go through
For the
this sort of-
developer or the property owner, yes, because the text amendment, or I'm sorry, the redo of the zoning ordinance and subdivision reg is going to take at least a year, if not longer, to complete. We have a task force meeting coming up in February to kind of kick that off to the public. But the PUD process obviously could be much shorter if the property owners wish to try to look at increasing the overall density on their property in that fashion.
Thank you.
I have a question for Director Young, actually, before our petitioner begins. Didn't we see this before, like recently, fairly recently?
This came before you early last year as a discussion item, and we looked at the surrounding properties, or I'm sorry, surrounding communities, what their overall densities were. We are low in terms of the allowable number of units for an R6 zoning district, but we still feel that it's prudent to go through the approval process of a new zoning ordinance. And at the same time, we could look at a PUD amendment for this property.
So this was just a discussion item here with the board. It did not go through Plan Commission previously?
It has gone through Plan Commission twice, public hearing.
Okay, thank you.
All right.
Hi, good evening, guys. We appreciate the opportunity to come in front of you, Board of Trustees. PUD option was, my name is Avi. I'm the consultant engineer for the property. I've got Brian Arami with the Rankin Associate Architects for the property. The landlords, developer are also here with us. They can answer any questions. PUD option, Mr. Young, was introduced as of 2 weeks ago, so it's fairly new to us. Prior to us petitioning for today, that was something that came up in the community development. We would love to learn more about it and as to the process. As we left the meeting on the 2nd of January, we got a flat deny. Although in a further conversation, PUD came along, we would love to learn more about it. Nevertheless, we wanted to come here anyway today to introduce again our project. Some of you I've met back in April. I feel that I'm getting experience in coming in here. Maybe one day I'll be sitting on the other side of the board. Anyway, in short, our project is a series of complex building of totaling 152 units. We are in Zone R6, Zone 6 in the village. Some background, there are about 8 Zone 6 only in the village of Montgomery, a handful of them. They are limited based on how many units per acre you can develop. I understand in learning the request for rezoning or reorganizing the ordinance of zoning is to take a different approach as to how to calculate how many units per acre. You know, it's going to be based on other criteria. I bless that. I think that with the zoning, you know, for the village and the growth, the natural growth of the village of Montgomery, it's a necessity. Yes, the village does need to revisit the zoning. We do fall within, there is another chart that Jeff can show, I don't know if it's on there. We do fall within the average. It's going from 12 to 18 in surrounding suburbs of units per acre. We're not exceeding, we're not low, we're not high. Although I must mention that there's another Zone 6 property or project or development that is currently just broke ground in the village. I believe that I don't know much about the, you feel free to tell me more, but I believe it's the Ogden Hill development. It's about 30 acres, and they have approval of 468 units, which roughly 15.6 units per acre. And we've learned that they had some consideration for setbacks and special use and so on. So there are only 2 other, as I know, 2 other large complex units in the village of Montgomery, us and 2 other ones. If some of you are familiar with the Victorian apartment complex, especially the certain department, the building department, police department, fire department, they can witness that since we took over the property 1 year and a half ago, there were tremendous improvement done. And I like to emphasize those because my first week in visiting the property, there used to be police detective vehicles circling the properties several times a day. You don't see that anymore. We have made major improvement to the property, not only with the building codes requirement, fire department, we're working together with the police department. We have zero tolerance for any alcohol gathering or violence and so on. So I think with all the respect, I think that the current new owners of the complex are assets to the village. We would like to stay at the village. It's a business plan, to develop and stay here. We have just acquired a next door 5-acre that belong to Kane County. The closing is scheduled for the end of the month. So with our 10-acre, existing 10-acre, an additional 5-acre that we have will acquire by the end of the month, we'll have a parcel of 15 acres. And we just roughly calculation, if I were to compare it to the Ogden Hills project, that will give me about 234 units, and we have 152 right now. So I don't think that we are requesting something that is not, it's not in precedence with the village approval. I must mention, we have zero occupancy. There is a high demand for rental units in the village. We have a total of 104 studios and one-bedroom apartment. Many of those are occupied by single people. Single person occupied the unit. If I need to divide the land area, roughly, we're talking about 3,500 square feet for one person. In the year 2000, the census in Montgomery, the population census was, just rough numbers, I'm sorry for not being accurate, but it was about 5,400 residents in the village. The year 2000, the year 2019, going into 2020, we have about 20,000, 3.5, 4 times more the population. So yes, zoning should change. The village should be more flexible in allowing, more residents rent units and rent apartments. The building, business development. Just with a quick glance at your website, there is nice. Everybody can see that there is a motivation from, there is incentive that the village is promoting business and development and industry. Well, people will come here, but they cannot always purchase homes. They need to rent. There is high demand. We have zero. Every day, we are rejecting people who come to our door, to our office. There is a nice office on site. We reject people every day. There is a demand. Now, with that plan, and I agree with Mr. Young, maybe we learn more about the PUD. But all what I'm asking the village to do today is not to go around and say, nay, 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 no, no, no. I want us to have a fruitful discussion. There is a necessity. If we cannot get, if you look at the diagram, you see some of the buildings are highlighted in yellow and some in blue. The 2 blue squares basically represent new 3-story buildings. The yellow represent existing 2-story buildings that we are looking to add on top, and the clear white buildings are 3-story existing buildings. What I'm suggesting here is maybe some flexibility while we're waiting. I guess the village proposed 18 months for the total process of, change of zoning. It's up to you why it needs to be that long. But in my experience, 18 months, can fall into 24 months. We'll be here sitting in 2 years. Some of you may be here, some of you not, may not be here. 2 years is a long time to just start the process, to box zero, we're not even planning, we're not even doing any design, we're not even submitting for permit. So I'm trying to work with the village, and while we're waiting for the zoning change, if we can go the route of leaving the two-story existing building as they are and not change them, and just go with the two new buildings. Just to let you know, so you can understand that map, the square on the left side of the upper blue building, it's an existing swimming pool that is not being used, and we're going to be taking that out. And the square on the bottom right side, it's a one-story office, which really we can, if needed to, we can remove or combine it together with one of those buildings. It's a suggestion, it's flexible. So in short, what I'm proposing here is not to say no to 64, but maybe to say yes to 30 or 32, just so we can feel that we're doing some production while the village is working on the overall zoning. I mean, 32 units will be about 3 units per acre. Just compared to the Ogden Hill project, I think we should fall in the same standard. That's my proposal right now. Sorry for being lengthy, but thanks for listening.
That's all right. And while that's not our purpose, you are getting some great experience speaking at the board.
Yes.
I do appreciate you coming this evening, and just a couple of things that I would comment, and I know we talked about this previously. It appears that there's two tracks going on right now that don't have to coincide. There's the update of our zoning ordinance, which I'm very supportive of looking at different ways, a more accurate way to identify density. I know, and I know this entire region is building out, we need to look at higher dense uses where appropriate. I don't think updating the ordinance right now to allow this in all R6 is appropriate, but I do think while we're looking at that, and that process hopefully will only take 18 months, you do have the option to go into a PUD or to work towards a PUD that would be much quicker. That kind of gives you the opportunity where we're not holding you up at all, but also the PUD gives both sides a little bit more flexibility if you want to increase your density or enhance the property so that it's better for all of our residents in Montgomery. And so while the recommendation from the Plan Commission is to deny the text amendment and list you specifically, our goal here on this board is to ensure that our ordinance is built for the entire R6 area. And so it's about you, but it's not about you. So with that, if there's any comments that the board has or if staff has.
I mean, I was at Planning Commission, and I think it's great. I think the work you've done over at Victoria Apartments are great. You guys are doing a great job of fixing some things that were wrong over there and have been long overdue. Again, what President Brawley is saying is we're trying to change the rule. This recommendation is for us to say no. That doesn't mean that this board is saying no to what you're looking at. Just need to look at it in a different way, because this is changing the rule. The PUD allows a little bit more flexibility, but it's a different process and it's not as lengthy. So I think that that's the direction that, I hope that you can go with it, because I think that you're headed in the right direction. It's just going to take a while for us to change the rule that applies to everybody. So, I'm in favor of helping you out, but again, this recommendation is to change the rule, and we're not in a position to change the rule right now.
Are you, have you fixed up any of the old places now? You're going to have sprinklers in the new stuff, right?
Yes, we'll have to bring the buildings up to code. Sprinklers may be required, depends on how many units per building, whatever the code is required. I know we worked with the fire department on common areas. I can't even emphasize enough the complex was in total deterioration. We had on-site meetings with the building department, with the inspectors, with the fire department, trying to work with them. lastly, and I must tell you, none of the income so far that we're receiving is going elsewhere. Everything goes back to the property. We want to take pride ownership. The developers are, they're experienced. They have similar properties in other suburbs. Have been doing it for 20+ years. They want to take pride in this property. We'd like to work with the village. We got a great team. We got a good architect. We got a good engineering, on the team. So thanks for the recommendation. It sounds like the PUD will be a good route to approach.
Question, Rich, how long does a PUD take? I mean, why couldn't he's got 7 existing buildings. Why can't he fix those? He can fix those up right now, correct?
Well, he can fix them up. Adding additional units is not permitted under the zoning
No,
ordinance
but
right now.
he can fix those up.
Yeah, he can improve the units themselves that are there, yes.
Mr. Lee,
And we've
there are
been
no
working-
existing violation. Everything is up to date as it is right now.
Okay.
We comply with all the requirements.
How long is this going to take? To me,
A PUD process would take 3 or 4 months to go through.
okay.
The other thing that I should absolutely mention is, I think our police department would agree that the improvement on site over the last a couple of years, I'm trying not to let that weigh into this discussion because it's incumbent upon us and this board to look at the use as opposed to the individual in it, in this situation. And so, but I do appreciate the improvement in the area, and please, work with staff. I mean, we haven't voted on the recommendation, but just the feeling that I'm getting is work with staff. If you choose to move forward with the PUD process, we can hopefully work towards something that works to provide a safe, enjoyable environment that people want to live in, that has a net benefit to our community, which I think, based on everything I've seen from you guys on this site, it has been doing exactly that. Thank you.
Yes. Thank you for your time.
Also, I agree with you. I wouldn't wait for CMAQ for 18 months either. That's just stringing it out way too long. You mentioned you bought property, 5 acres. Is that part of the?
So the property we purchased is about to close, and then on the January 30th. It's an unincorporated area. I talked to Mr. Young, and we'll, to learn about the process of annexating the property into the village. Specifically, we need to connect to the sewer and water system. And it's about 5 acres, and the next step will be to, I guess we'll try and do it all in one process to annexate it and zone it residential. There's a commercial property there right now. It's an office building that will be coming down. And again, it's immediately on the east side of our property. We share a fence. That will also allow us for, there are 187 parking spots on that new land. So we can share parking, and we can, I think it would be profitable for both parcels. And that will be, we're probably going to see me again asking for annexation on that property.
I agree with you there. The parking always was bad, even in the 60s when they were built. They were the best-looking apartments in the whole area when they were built, but the parking was bad right back then.
We have 256 parking right now, and they're mostly not utilized.
That extra 5 acres will make a difference.
Yes.
Director Young, does this additional 5-acre parcel affect this density issue? Because that's not part of this plan, correct?
No, it's not on the plan that you have before you tonight.
Okay, would it help get us closer to the densities that
Well,
need to be?
Yes, it could if it's incorporated into the overall plan for the property. It has to be annexed. It could go simultaneously with the PUD amendment to the existing track. We could form a PUD for the new track and annex it at the same time.
Okay. Great, thank you.
Those are the numbers I mentioned before, just roughly, if I go with the 15 units per acre as existing right now, with the new parcel that has no units at all, we'll have a total of we'll have about, close to 14.99, 15 acres for sake of discussion. It will be about 234 units. And on this existing parcel, we only have 152, so that gives us a leverage of new 82 units, roughly. We're excited about the new project, but we just wanted to get going. You know, we started the process in April, we're in January 2019, and we just want to be productive, that's all.
Would you like a motion for the recommendation from the Planning Commission?
Sure.
Second.
This is item C, the recommendation of Planning Commission.
Trustee Marisak.
Yes.
Trustee Spurling.
Yes.
Trustee Lee.
Yes.
And Trustee Youngerman.
Yes.
All right, and that carries 4-0. That's just the recommendation of Planning Commission to accept that. We don't have an ordinance on the agenda, and from the consensus of the board, we'll move forward with the way that we discussed. If you're interested to submit for a PD process, we look forward to seeing that in the future. Thank you. All right, I'll move on to item D this evening. It's an IGA for construction of a traffic signal at Concord Drive and Galena Road. Engineer Wallers, I'll ask you to intro that.
Thanks, Village President Brawley. This evening, staff is requesting consideration for approval of the intergovernmental agreement with Kendall County and the Village of Oswego. The purpose of the agreement is to define the terms of funding for the project. As you may recall, we have a boundary line agreement with the Village of Oswego that calls for 50% cost sharing for any traffic signal that's installed on a common boundary road, which Galena Road is. Also happens that Galena Road is a county highway. So during the discussions with the county working through the permitting, the county's agreed to participate in the project and fund 50% of the construction cost for their two legs of the intersection. Village of Montgomery would fund 25% of the construction, and the Village of Oswego would fund 25% of the construction. In addition, the Village of Oswego and the Village of Montgomery would split the engineering costs for the project. And then in terms of operations, the county has agreed to take over maintenance of the signal, and the Village of Montgomery would take over the cost of the electricity for the project, and it will be a LED signal and LED lights. So this evening, we're asking for concurrence and approval of the intergovernmental agreement, subject to the other two communities or entities approving the agreement, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
What's the time schedule as far as construction?
If the agreement's approved by all the entities, our intention is to go out for bids this month. We would be coming back hopefully with award on the 11th of February.
Okay.
Then construction would go over the course of the year, and we're hoping that we would have the signal online in July. Some of that depends on the availability and of the traffic signal equipment. There's been some longer lead times on that type of equipment, so it's difficult to predict, but that's the current schedule.
We started down this road of getting this signal earlier, I guess it was last year now, and it was supposed to be done in the fall of last year. Kendall County got involved, and that's fine if they want to share in that expense, but we have residents that, especially on Mayfield Drive, that are concerned that Mayfield Drive is being used as a cut-through, and we know that it is. Is there anything that we can do to speed up the process? It should have been done last year.
Vote yes. That would help.
That's great, but we did that last year.
Yeah.
We'll certainly look to see if there's anything we can do to expedite the construction, to see if there's any other incentives we can include, but I can't think of anything right now. I think the most important thing is to get it out to bid early and get our bids in and get it awarded.
So we're estimating that it's going to be up and running in, end of July?
Yes.
And I could be wrong, did Kendall County already approve this? I talked to a board member the other day, indicated that they are in agreement with it. I don't know if they actually voted.
It's been discussed. The meeting schedules with the holidays were a little difficult to predict, and I'm not sure if they're going to have an official meeting this week or next, but, and same with the Village of Oswego. I understand it'll be on their agenda either this week or soon.
So you just keep us posted on that?
I will do.
Awesome. Any other comments or questions? Entertain a motion?
So moved.
Second. Go ahead.
Trustee Youngerman.
Yes.
Trustee Marisak.
Yes.
Trustee Spurling.
Yes.
And Trustee Lee.
Yes.
That carries 4-0. Thank you, Pete. Item F this evening is ordinance 1837. This is granting a special use for a drive-through and outdoor cafe. This is,
Item E.
oh, I have a tendency to do that sometimes. We'll go back up to the one that I have us down voting 4-0, so please remember that.
Would you like a motion for E?
So, hold on a second. So E, PSA with EEI for design and construction engineering for the traffic signal that we just approved the IGA for. Unless,
And these are the costs that are in the IGA, and they have been approved by Village of Oswego staff as well.
okay. Any comments or questions? Motion?
Motion to accept?
Second.
Go ahead.
Trustee Marisak.
Yes.
Trustee Spurling.
Yes.
Trustee Lee.
Yes.
And Trustee Youngerman.
Yes.
See? 4-0. Thank you. Move on to item F again, is ordinance 1837, granting a special use for a drive-through and outdoor cafe at Lot 24 in the Ogden Hill Commercial Subdivision. This is the second reading, and we'll ask Director Young if there's anything additional to add.
Thank you, Mr. President. The application in this case is requesting a special use for a 3-tenant building that would include an outdoor cafe and a drive-through pickup lane. This is the item that you reviewed at your last meeting. There was several folks that discussed the access to the property because it's a shared access along the northern boundary with the Earth Mover Credit Union. In your packet tonight is a design of an acceptable access location for both the credit union and this 3-unit building. All parties agree that this is an appropriate design, and we recommend approval of the special use for this project.
Can you kind of delve a little bit deeper into the access? I know we have a very sophisticated sketch in here, which mine's in black and white, but kind of where that is. I know Earth Movers shared some concerns before, and
There's an existing access point, the only access point into Earth Movers that's immediately at the northeast corner of this vacant parcel, and there's a joint access easement at that same location. So where you see the blue lines and the red arrows, that's would be a modification of the design or the layout of how the access would take place for both the credit union, kind of on the northeast side, and the drive-in lane for the 3-unit building. You would be able to circulate out at that point as well. You see the red stop sign bar that basically goes to the northeast. That would be an exit, but then the exit that was planned for the service drive down at the left-hand side or the southwest portion of the site has been moved closer to the right-in, right-out only at Ogden. So we have seen other locations within Ogden Hill that function in the same general vicinity to the Ogden right-in, right-out. And we've reviewed that with EI and our traffic engineer and feel that that's an acceptable way to do the traffic flow around this entire site.
okay. Thank you, appreciate it. Any other questions?
Just one minor point, and we did update the ordinance to reflect that it would be subject to final engineering and staff review to make sure the final exhibit matches what this mock-up is.
Earth Movers okayed it?
Yes, sir.
I mean, I was at Planning Commission, and this is a really great example of two businesses working together to be good neighbors. McAllister's was very open to the suggestions of changing, and Earth Movers was flexible. I think it was really nice to see you guys work it out together.
Not yet, I did filibuster, so we had the votes.
Oh, he handed me the microphone.
All right, any other questions for staff?
No.
Is there a motion?
So moved.
Second. And this is item F, ordinance 1837, second reading. Go ahead and call the roll.
Trustee Spurling.
Yes.
Trustee Lee.
Yes.
Trustee Youngerman.
Yes.
And Trustee Marisak.
Yes.
That carries 4-0. Thank you.
Yeah, I couldn't wait any longer.
Okay. With that, we'll move on to item G, which is ordinance 1836. This is rezoning and granting a special use and PUD for Ricky Rockets mixed-use development. This is the second reading, and I do want to apologize if the folks that had emailed me earlier, I misspoke, that the item is up for discussion and potential vote this evening. I was misspoken when I emailed that last week. Just want to be upfront about that. I did respond to that today. But anyway, with that, would like to turn it over to Rich for a summary of the items, and we'll go from there.
Okay, at your station tonight, there are two drawings that reflect what was discussed at the last meeting regarding potential changes to the signage. The one drawing shows the three monument signs, one along Jericho, one at the corner of Jericho and Orchard, and then one along Orchard Road itself. The majority of the board felt that the three-dimensional character that was part of their monument sign hopefully could be moved off of that sign and only located on the only on the Orchard Road side of the development. That's been incorporated into the overall design that you see in front of you tonight. The second component is architectural element. We talked about the three-dimensional character on top of the convenience store, similar to an enclosure or an architectural feature to, say, a Walgreens atrium-type signage. That's been incorporated as well on the second drawing that you have before you tonight. Overall, the landscape plan has been modified to include some additional berming along the south side of Jericho Road, as well as additional evergreens along that same berm and along the side of the car wash that faces Jericho Road as well. The signage has been removed from the north side of the car wash, also facing Jericho Road, so there would be no signage on that wall of the car wash. The packet indicates that there's a drawing that talks about the hydrology for the drainage of the site. The vast majority of the site drains to the east and goes into a 52-inch culvert that is under Orchard Road now into a detention pond that will have further improvements made to it on the east side of Jericho Road. There's a drainage drawing in your packet as well, as an update from the discussion the last time. So as you've noticed, or as you've mentioned, this is second reading of the ordinance for this project. And the applicants are here if you have any questions for the applicants.
Yeah, absolutely. Does the applicant have anything to add at this time?
Good evening. My name is Mike McKinnon with Bluestone Single Tenant Properties. We're the developer for the property. Mr. President, is there, let me just ask for protocol for this evening. Is there specific items that the board would like to address, or would you like me to first address some of the comments that we received earlier? I guess.
Yeah, it's, I think it would be helpful if you address some of those comments, just for process. But if you wanted to give an overview of the project or what has changed, I know that since we talked about it 2 weeks ago or so, there's been changes that Rich just outlined. But yeah, if you can address those, that would be helpful.
Yeah, so some of the major changes were obviously the roof feature on top of the convenience store. Initially, we've been proposing for it to be freestanding above the roof line. At the recommendation of the board and also of staff, we have enclosed that, as we said, it's very comparable to what's already in town with the Chase and Walgreens. So it's behind the glass, it's incorporated as part of the building. Even prior to a meeting with the nearby residents, we've actually been talking with staff quite a bit about adding additional both landscape berming and landscaping to increase the buffer between our development and to our neighbors to the north. So since then, we've actually, since the Plan Commission, when we started talking about it with staff, is we've added berms, we've changed the type of trees. Initially, we had lots of deciduous trees, which work great for 2.5 months out of the year since we live in northeastern Illinois. We replaced almost all of those with evergreen trees so that they provide instantaneous screening for those residents, and as they grow, they'll continue to grow. And it should also, which also helps, the homeowners already have some very good evergreen screening on their side. So couple what they are existing have, what we're proposing to do with the berming and with the evergreen trees, we're going to provide some pretty nice landscape buffer. We've been working with staff, as you know, about reorienting and changing the direction of the signage so that it minimizes the impact to our neighbors to the north. If I may just go back and address some of the concerns that some of our neighbors brought up before. Regarding the process, we followed the Village of Montgomery process in terms of notification. We have provided staff with copies of all the certified mailers. They are correct that the HOA mailer, we actually received that back from the post office today. It was attempted to be delivered on two different times, and per normal post office protocol, notice is, typically they leave some sort of notification in the mail, which requires either a resident or in this case the HOA administrator to go to the post office and pick up the certified mail. Obviously, for whatever reason, I can't answer why that was not done, and we received that back. Regarding the fuel center as a truck stop. So we develop fuel centers for a myriad of clients, including Thornton Speedway, Ricky Rockets, and also for Pilot Flying J. There's really 3 types of fuel centers you can build. There's a neighborhood market, which is a convenience store with auto pumps out in front. And then there's a truck stop, which we're all very well aware of, which is a 10-acre, vast, huge parking in the back, public laundry, showers, and other truck driver amenities. And then there's this the third type, and really what that is taking the neighborhood market model and adding diesel a component in the back. And the reason that you've seen a proliferation of that, especially here in the village, is because of the number of trucks that are driving on the local roads because of the increase of the Amazons and the other retailers providing that type of service. This facility is that third category that's described. The reason that we're adding that component is because there's 3,000 trucks on the road today. We want to capture those day tripper, we call them day tripper traffic. It's the guy that lives either in Montgomery or in an adjacent community. He's going to the intermodals, he's going to a different distribution center, and then he's going home at night. We are not the over-the-road guy that's going from LA to Miami. We're not pulling people off the interstate. Our goal is to service the truck drivers that are on that road. And as such, we're providing them a place to the fuel. We're providing a place to park if they so desire, and we're providing them to grab a cup of coffee and use the restroom, and that's what our goal is. Regarding the overnight parking, we agreed to overnight parking, I think even before staff suggested it. We want to give them some place to stop and go in and use the restroom or buy a cup of coffee. Hope they buy a cup of coffee and a bag of Doritos. But we don't want the overnight obligation. So at our other facilities, we do tow the trucks if they exceed the time restriction imposed as part of our zoning for that local municipality. I lost my train of thought. Forgive me. Traffic. For the last 2 years, we've been going through the Kane County Division of Transportation process regarding traffic, and currently, we're nearing the end of that process. We just recently submitted our construction drawings again this past Friday. We meet all of the level of service for each of the intersections, and we have not contested any of the roadway improvements requested by Kane County Division of Transportation. In fact, we're actually providing considerable compensation to Kane County, both in terms of our road impact fees, and we're also providing them $137,000 plus or minus to widen Orchard Road when that time comes as well. That's in addition to the road impact fee ordinance, and that's in addition to the roadway improvements that we need to do, including the signals at Rochester, the southbound deceleration lane on Orchard, and the 2 deceleration lanes on Jericho Road. So we're providing quite a considerable investment into the local infrastructure, which will help mitigate some of the traffic issues addressed by our residents. So we are moving on that path. Regarding the vacuum noise, we actually, we're very cognizant of the issue, specifically with another car wash operator in town with a very high whine. Actually, it was very, before we even met with the residents, I believe the residents that were there, they'll back us up. So Ricky Rockets is actually spending an additional $40,000 on their vacuum system. It's the state of the art. It has a variable drive system. So as units aren't being used, the motor slows down. So it doesn't have that high pitched whine of the other operator in town. And one of the other convenient things of how we position the vacuums on our site, if you look at the site plan, the car wash is located immediately adjacent Jericho Road, which is adjacent to the residents. The vacuums are located on the opposite side of that. The reason for that is sound is line of sight. So by placing the vacuums on away from the residents, the majority of that vacuum sound will be mitigated and muffled by the building and our landscaping that we're providing. Additional traffic, forgive me, going down through my notes. So I guess I believe I captured most of the comments that were brought by the neighbors, and I'd be happy to address any further comments by the board.
Could
Thank
you
you. Go ahead.
go over the hours for the car wash and the vacuums?
Yeah.
I thought there were specific hours
Yes,
for that.
7 to 9, is that correct there? 7 a.m. to 9 p.m. And the vacuums turn off concurrent with the hours of the car wash.
And I thought we had come to an agreement last time about there would be no overnight parking
For the
for
trucks?
the trucks.
Correct.
And how many spaces are there?
There are 6.
Would that be self-policed?
We would, yeah, as I said, at our other facilities, similar as this one, we would be responsible for towing them. And it is monitored by both in-person employees and also via security cameras.
And I'm trying to find the landscape plan here, but is the 6 parking stalls, are those screened to the north for the truck parking? I know it's,
Currently, no. That's actually a good point we never thought of. We're proposing the future development in the northwest, but that is something that we could do as part of this first phase.
if you guys would consider
Yep.
that, I think that would help
I agree with that.
mitigate.
Yep.
Okay.
I was one that I had brought up the change in trees on the berming. I have a Bachelor of Science in Horticulture. As I look at this, and I look at your new landscape plan, I see the berming, I'm assuming those are some sort of fir or spruce or something like that. No pine, they drop limbs as they get older and they naturally limb themselves up. But as I see this, there's still some gaps here. If you could push them in closer, because most likely on your landscape plan, when these are installed, they're either going to be 6 or 8 foot, and
Correct.
they need to be a little tighter spaced, because what we want is no headlights or anything to be able to get through there as they grow. So I would say on your landscape plan on sheet L1 of L1, where you have that berming, I would say add another 5 or 6, preferably spruce trees. And those will help alleviate some of the sound and also some of the lighting.
All right. Any other questions for staff or the petitioner?
On the gaming,
Yes.
we have nothing to do with that. You got to do the state yourself, and we have no fees for a machine or anything like that. So that's strictly up to you on getting the license and all that.
Okay, thank you.
I have a question on the liquor license. I don't know if that's something you can answer, or if somebody else needs to answer that. There's, in the item for later to be discussed, there is a request for packaged liquor and then a pour license. I'd like to know where you're going to be pouring liquor. It's a convenience store.
No, it's for the retail attached to the convenience store.
Oh.
We're looking at that for a restaurant use right now.
Thank you. I
Yes.
was confused by that.
Yeah.
Thank you.
All of the lighting is downcast lighting?
Correct, and we'll provide cutoff shields, especially along the
Northern
residence
portion.
on Jericho Road.
And that was going to be a sit-down restaurant, correct?
We're currently, but the one adjacent to the convenience store would have to be a sit-down. There's no drive-through proposed. The retail center, the southernmost space, the one furthest to the left, would have a drive-through.
Okay, thank you.
So the restaurant would be under the future development area, that further to the left there?
Yeah,
what
there's
we're
two
talking about?
restaurants. There's one located immediately adjacent to the convenience store. There's an 1,800 square foot space.
Okay, or here?
Yep, there's a convenience store
Okay.
immediately left of that. And then also all the way to the left of the retail center
Okay,
for the drive-through.
thank you.
I assume, is this development going to be phased? And if so, how?
Correct. So the first phase is the portion that's in the darker bold, which is the car wash, the convenience store, and the 10,800 square foot retail building.
Okay.
All the infrastructure, all the off-site Kane County improvements, and the interior spine road from Summerhill to Rochester would be completed as part of the first phase.
Which entrance are we anticipating the trucks to come in?
They'll come in primarily through the Orchard Road, right in, right out access.
Okay. Do they have access and then I guess the turning radius to come in off of Jericho?
Correct. It's
If they
been-
miss that, but
Correct.
they're primarily, they should be coming in off of
Yeah,
Orchard?
and they can also, yeah, and to be fair to all the residents, it is designed for them to come in from all directions. They can come in
Okay.
from Jericho, Rochester, Orchard, and that's a function of Kane County's requirements, isn't anything.
One question that somebody brought up at the last meeting, the roadway extension to the south towards Orchard Road Animal Hospital,
Yes,
the current plan that we have up there shows that your road stops a few feet short of the property line.
yes.
Will you be extending that all the way to your property line so they can connect to it?
It will go
Okay.
to the property line, yes.
Just came across that at work. A spite strip, where you don't have the authority. Just checking.
We have a good working relationship with the animal hospital.
Awesome.
Yes.
Okay. Any other questions for the petitioner, and then we can deliberate? The signage, I don't think we got an updated signage plan, but at the last meeting, there was a sign proposed at Summerhill Drive, which there currently still is, Summerhill Drive in Jericho, but it does not have the
The Rocket
figurine.
Boy has been
Yeah.
removed.
Okay.
Correct.
All right,
Yes.
that's okay. Any other questions for Mike? Any questions for staff? Thank you, Mike. Appreciate it.
I have a question for Director Young, and I believe I asked you a very similar question at the last meeting. The items that came up with the previous development that was denied had all been addressed with this development, the things that were brought to our attention and were opposed. Those items, those same issues were all addressed at this point with the developer?
I'm not sure what.
Not sure I understand your question.
In terms of the environmental issues, the lighting, fumes, all of those issues that came up when we were looking at gas and wash.
Well, when we were
Did
looking.
we go through all of those with this development?
Yes, the lighting, obviously the buffering, the noise from the vacuum systems, all of those have been addressed. I need to point out that the difference between the site at Jericho and Orchard and the one at Gordon and 30 is that the comprehensive plan for the village shows that Jericho and Orchard location as a regional commercial location. At Gordon and 30, that's a neighborhood commercial designation. So that's the difference in terms of the land planning for the village in terms of ultimate use, so.
And I understand,
Yeah.
they're not as similar as has been made out to be. But I'm just going on the different issues and concerns that came up with the residents at that time. I
The
just want to make sure.
environmental issues, to the best of my knowledge, have been addressed that were concerns at the other site, yes.
Thank you.
Any other questions, comments? A couple of things that I did want to mention, questions specifically from the public, that the notices were sent out, and I think the petitioner addressed that. The truck stop, not a truck stop gaming issue is one that honestly comes up every couple of months here in the village. The state, as we're all aware, gave us very little leeway on whether or not to approve those in our community or deny those. We have no say in that, other than the fact to allow them village-wide, which is a vote that a previous board took years ago. And so we're cognizant of that fact. We've done what we can to, in my opinion, mitigate the impact of gaming at restaurant facilities through our liquor license. But while we don't consider this a truck stop, I could see where you pulled that definition. It's the same thing that I did when I looked at Speedway when they came into the community as well. So we don't have a whole lot of authority in that, thanks to the state. What we try and do is mitigate that impact to the area. I could be wrong, and I did want to check with the chief. Has our police department had any issues, I guess, specifically related to gaming over the years that you know of? Maybe that's part of a bigger discussion that we could have.
No, sir, but we do have a representative from the gaming board here if you would like that directly addressed through them. We, as a police department, have not.
Okay. Yes, that would be awesome. If that's acceptable, yeah, from the.
Mark, would you be prepared to make any statement on that?
Oh, okay. That's okay. Mm-hmm. Okay. I do appreciate that. The main concern that I had with regards to the residents to the north, I think, and I hope through this process you've appreciated the fact that while not in the corporate limits of our town, we're certainly cognizant of an impact that a development next to your home would have. And this is actually, I was thinking about this today, a conversation that I had with Mayor Wisner when he was in Aurora, talking about development going back 20 years, and where the vision for Orchard Road in the village or the city of Aurora has always been different from the vision that we had starting here at Jericho and heading south. And I think this is more the confluence of those two separate visions, right? Having residential on the corner and having a commercial use at this corner, which has been zoned this way for the better part of 2 decades at least, if that's accurate. And so, and you can tell that that was known at the time due to the heavy landscaping at the corner. So while I share your concerns, I also understand that those houses were likely planned for commercial use at this corner. A hotel is not being proposed. They have that gray hatched in. I don't think any plans or anything have been submitted that would go through the formal process. And now that we know your interest and know how to get a hold of you, frankly, that would be something that we would encourage you to comment on at that time as well. The last comment I wanted to make was in regards to transportation or the roadway impacts on Jericho Road. It is rather odd that you only have the right-in, right-out on Orchard now. And so I did reach out to staff and ask for if there was a traffic study and if our engineers had had reviewed that and agree with the findings there. And both are the case, that they've reviewed those and found that the impact from this development, per their engineer, will be minimal, will be something that is acceptable to KDOT and to village staff. And so we've done what we can to mitigate this and also at the same time follow our process in reviewing and voting on this tonight, if that's the intent of the board. So I didn't intend to speak that long, but go ahead.
I want to add one thing, because it was a comment that came up twice, I think, that there's similar uses along Orchard Road corridor. When you're heading southbound on the west side of Orchard Road, it's the 7-Eleven up by 88 and Home Depot, or 71 or 34 in Orchard Road. Those are the only two on the west side of Orchard Road. So if you were heading south, there is no place to stop. You have to cross over. So I don't feel like the area is flooded, as it was implied. I think that this is proximity-wise, I don't typically go to the gas station across the other side of the street. I go to the one that's on my way.
Okay. Any other questions from the board or staff?
No.
Would you like a motion?
I would, and this is item G, ordinance 1836, the rezoning and granting a special use for Ricky Rockets.
So moved.
Second.
Was that second, please? Okay, thank you. All right. Trustee Marisak?
Yes.
Trustee Spurling?
Yes.
Trustee Lee?
Yes.
And Trustee Youngerman.
Yes.
All right. And that carries 4-0. Thank you. I want to thank everybody for coming this evening. I do really appreciate your input in the process. All right. All right, so we'll move on to the next item this evening is item H. It's an IGA with Kane County for the purpose of providing an electric vehicle charging station. Who's this? Go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. President. This item tonight is